Hello, welcome back to episode 2 of our little series on how to be a better trans ally.
Yep, today we're going through pronouns, so buckle up. And to remind you, I'm Judy, I'm your LGBTQ+ Liberation Officer, pronouns he, they, and this is...
I'm Leon, your trans non-binary officer, pronouns they, them.
As mentioned, we're going through pronouns today, so we're just going to give you some quick easy tips on how to be better at pronouns and how to adapt to pronouns.
Pronouns can be quite confusing for a lot of people if you've never met someone who uses different pronouns, or if you're having to change what pronouns you're using for someone. So we've got a few tips on how to improve.
First tip.
Set your default. So most people default to kind of assuming people's pronouns based on how they look. That's kind of how we're raised. People do it for a very long time. But the problem with it is not everyone's expression of gender is the same as how they feel inside. Whether that's for safety, level of effort, or just because they don't owe you anything, you know? So a big problem with assuming people's gender is you will get it wrong sometimes, and it's not fair on people. So one of the best things you can do is reset your default.
Yeah, a good way to do this is just to go with they, them, because it's completely neutral. Unlike he and she, they can be a bit at times for some people, so they, them is a perfect thing to use.
Yeah, and there's no going wrong. The majority of people will never have a problem with you using they, them as a substitute. Obviously, when you know someone's pronouns, use those, but it's one of the best ways that you can make it easier for people off the bat if you don't get a chance to find out their pronouns. So tip number 2 is correct your pronouns even in your head. One of the hardest things to get pronouns right in your head is that when you're saying things to people and you in your head don't correct yourself, you set that as how you're used to saying it, even if you haven't ever said it. If you get someone's pronouns wrong in your head, treat it exactly the same as if you get them wrong in real life. Correct yourself, move on. It's just another way of kind of making it so that your default for that person is correct, rather than going back to that way that we've all been taught of just assume based on appearance or voice or something else. It leads very quickly onto number 3 though, which is, what do you do if you get someone's pronouns wrong, Jodie?
Just quickly correct it and then move on. For example, he, they like ketchup. He, they. It's quick, snap, done. One
of the biggest things that a lot of people make a mistake of early on is being like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, oh my god, no. What you're doing in that is you center your own mistake and center yourself as part of the conversation. I've seen people almost feel like they have to apologize to the person for it, and on top of that, you make such a bigger deal about it. It can make people feel really uncomfortable suddenly being the center of attention because you got their pronouns wrong. If you just correct it and move on, that's it. that is it. And again, you set that default that makes it easier to not get them wrong later.
The last tip is say your pronouns as well, so don't just be there like, what's your pronouns? Go, oh, my pronouns are he, they, what are yours?
Introducing yourself with your pronouns. One of the things that I like to do is I put them in my emails as well and stuff.
Yes, I do that.
Just ways of making it normalized. The more that everyone recognizes that pronouns do not equal gender expression, the easier it is for everyone whose pronouns don't equal that. What I will say is if you're asking people for their pronouns as habit, make sure you don't pry too much if people aren't comfortable. But another thing that kind of goes into that as well, don't be afraid to check up on people's pronouns.
Yeah.
People's pronouns can change. Sometimes people want to experiment with new ones, and by asking every now and then, just being like, hey, Jodie, do you still use he, they?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. There we go. It makes it a lot more comfortable for people if they do change them. You kind of left that door open that you're comfortable with that fact. I will also say a lot of the tips we've said here kind of go together with names as well. If you want to keep track of if someone has changed their name, or you're trying to avoid dead naming someone, which is when you use a name that's a trans person no longer goes by, you can also use a lot of the tips we've just said. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Catch you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.